Hi, everybody. I'm going to narrate a story for you. There was an elderly man who had a profitable little business selling hot dogs on a busy street. It was on a corner of a major city. He wasn't particularly well educated and he was hard of hearing. He can't hear well, so he had no radio. He had trouble with his eyes too, so he read no newspapers, and of course, he did not look at television. But he sold great hot dogs, and his customers loved him. During the early morning rush hour, he would wheel his mobile hot dog stand to a position near the exit of a central train station in the town. A year ago, he had added a bacon and egg roll to his range and sold scores of them to his breakfast crowd every day. At lunchtime, he would move his stand to a popular park where he had lines of regular for hot dogs. In the afternoon, he would be back at the train station again in the entrance, there in a very great spot near the nightclub where patrons rushed him off his feet. He had even installed special lighting and a flashing neon sign. Even people driving by would stop. So that was his marketing technique. He had worked hard for years successfully and earned enough to put his only son through university, who later became a management consultant with a larger firm. Just by selling these things, he had planned so well that he was able to educate his son. One day, his son warned him that a recession was on the way and that the news was all over the television and in all the newspapers. The old man asked his son what this meant for him. Being an educated man, his son gave a very detailed explanation of how the recession would severely impact every person in the community, particularly small business people like his father. There would be enormous unemployment. People would not able to afford to spend money as they did now. And he painted a gloomy picture of the future and warned his father that he would be wise to cut back his expenses and tighten his belt financially and then prepare for the worst. So the son is so educated, he sees the newspaper and about the recession. He's warning his father to cut down the expenses and be ready for the worst. The old man did not know much about the economy or the interest rates, but he trusted his son. After all, he was an educated man. Recession mentally kicked in. The old man began to cut back on the number of sausages and bread rolls he bought. He did not want to get caught with stale rolls as business began to drop due to the coming recession. But it was hard to judge, and some days he actually ran out of sausages and rolls earlier than we normally would. He used to have some requirement earlier, and based on that he used to buy, but now he has cut down his requirements, but the demand was more than before. So he went to home early and spent more time worrying about this recession that was coming. Soon he knew that what his son had said was right. He noticed that his takings were indeed falling. This depressed him more, and so he tended to get out of bed later each day. Why should I get up early? Not much of sales coming in. So I can just go late. So, after all, why get to the station so early when obviously more people would be eating at home rather than spending money on breakfast in the city? He decided that his bacon and egg rolls were too expensive for most people now. After all, they were twice the price of a hot dog. So he cut them from his menu and his sales continued to plummet. Wow, my son was right. This recession is hitting me hard, thought the old man. So the old man decided to save more money and not replace batteries that powered his neon sign and the lights at night. That was the one which was calling and welcoming people for his shop. But he wanted to cut down the expenses because his son has told. Now, because he was in the dark, fewer people bought from him, and soon he decided that it wasn't even worth his time sitting up at night. Eventually, he decided to sell off his equipment and his trolley. He was in luck though, because the woman who bought his trolley didn't seem to know how bad the business was or how severe the recession was going to be. So he managed to unload the trolley for more than he thought he would get. Now, day after day, he stayed at home. His son would visit him, and then they would discuss how bad the recession was and how lucky the old man had been to have an educated son who had warned him in advance about this terrible recession. What do we learn from this story? Even though other people are more educated than you, it does not mean that they know what is right decision or what is wrong one. It's not the education alone decides that, it is the experience. The knowledge can sometimes hinder you in making the right decision. Knowing everything that can go wrong can stop you from going after your goals and dreams. You think a lot about it, you go and research a lot about it, and you think that you're too smart and you are so proactive and you will take a lot of actions. You will predict something and you will act accordingly, and it will happen just because of your wrong predictions. Because of the predictions, the actions will change. So if you listen to others, do not expect to have different results than they do. If you listen to people who say that nothing is possible and you accept that mindset, then that is true. On the other hand, if you try, well, who knows? Try and let us know. Let me know how it works and what happens. Because many people, many of us, we assume things and we just go by some gossips, something like the California petrol shortage happened, that was a news. There was a news that there's going to be a shortage, and people started storing. Because they may not get in future. So what happened? Because they started buying more than what is required, the shortage came. It was not going to come, but just by the news, people started behaving like that, and it happened in that way. So that is what happens many times, that we assume a lot of things, and based on that, our actions change, and because of that, things happen as we negatively predicted or thought about. So many of our actions are going wrong because of our negative predictions, and the actions based on those negative predictions. So be positive and keep working in your own pace, and don't go with all those news or the gossips or something like that. Based on that, if you change your action or your attitude or your routine, naturally you're only creating a failure for your own self. Stay blessed.